All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So we're going to be starting in about 4 minutes, and we have all our guests. Our one guest is here, live and ready. Inshallah ta'ala. It's the pre-iftar period, so if we say or do anything that sounds a bit loopy, please forgive us. We're just getting our head geared up for this. So chat here.
I have seen that the very much your option. Your picture. That's part of the training process. Imagine that they don't do it, they burn it up. Every mistake possible.
Okay, people are starting coming in. So if you're just joining us right now, please post where you're calling from and also where you're dialing in from, and say salam to the room. So go tap in the chat.
The last one you did was Native Son, the famous book.
Okay, people are coming to the room. Again, if you just joined us right now, please do say salam in the chat. Let us know you can hear us clearly, you can see us clearly. We're starting in about a few minutes to get on bang on 5:30 Central Time, inshallah. Okay. Starting in 2 minutes. So if you can read the chat, if you can see the video, say yes. Video and where you're dialing in from. Assalamu alaikum Sakina, welcome. Where are you dialing in from? Fatma, welcome. Okay. Starting in 2 minutes. If you just join us, type in the chat where you're calling from, and let us know if you can see us and hear us clearly. Bismillah. Alright, salam hina, well done, mashallah, day 3. Thank you for joining us for 3 days in a row, appreciate it. Sabrina, assalamu alaikum. Hi, assalamu alaikum. Awesome, good to see some familiar names already in the chat. Excellent. How's Ramadan for you guys? How's it feeling so far? A couple of days in, maybe 1 day in, second day in. Colleen, alaikum. How's Ramadan so far for you guys? Do you feel everything you've been learning, you've been applying? The difference in Ramadan, inshallah? Awesome. I'm happy to hear that, Mel. Assalamu alaikum, Afiq. All right, it's 5:30. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit different from the previous 2 webinars. It's going to be a lot more relaxed, but inshallah ta'ala it's still informative and still useful and still beneficial. I have a special guest, actually a special friend, Chris Blova, the founder and CEO of launchgood.com. And he's with us, joining in from Detroit, from Dearborn, Michigan. Assalamu alaikum, Chris.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. Although today I'm in Detroit, actually. I stayed in the office for this.
Okay, so in Detroit today. So I feel like this topic is going to be I want it to be a little bit more interactive. It's not about us kind of throwing slides at you, everybody, and just sort of, throwing information at all of us. I want us to talk about an important and often neglected topic in Ramadan. So oftentimes when you think about Ramadan, we think about, our personal acts of worship. We think about sort of my Quran, how many Qurans I finished today, my Taraweeh, I'm able to stay up or not, my fasting, my iftars, my meals, my sleep, my nutrition, right? We always think about myself. And we wanted to go beyond ourselves. I know that Ramadan, all of us want to focus on our spirituality and our ibadah, but part of, the beautiful thing about Islam is that it's not a selfish religion. It's not an individualistic religion. It's actually a religion that, it's a community-based religion. In fact, we fast according to, as a community, right? So we actually are encouraged to fast as a community. When you see the moon, we fast together, we break the fast together. And the whole concept, when Rasulullah entered Medina, the first instruction he gave was, that, oh people, feed the people and spread the salam. And then the last thing he said, and pray at night when people are sleeping. So 2 of those 3 acts of worship were social acts of worship. And one of them was something to do on your personal acts of ibadah. So with that in mind, I could not think of a better person to invite to this webinar discussion than the founder of LaunchGood and CEO of Launch.com, because they have seen a lot of social projects over the years. And what I wanted to do today is 2 parts. One is to just think on a personal level. I know most of you are busy professionals. Most of you have that 9-to-5 grind, perhaps have to go to work, have families, and you can barely focus on your own worship, never mind think about doing social good, right? It's a lot to ask for ourselves. But I wanted to start this discussion. Chris, bismillah, we can start with this. It's just the idea of, on a personal level, what does it take for us to come out of this mindset of, hey, it's just, I need to focus on my ibadah, right? I don't have time. I really want to just focus my ibadah and see how things go. And I'm not going to inshallah khair, I'll give a charity in there now and then, but I just don't have time to do social good. So what are your thoughts on that to start with?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Well, first of all, thanks so much for inviting me to your webinar. The group doesn't know maybe as much, but you are a good friend, as you mentioned in the beginning, and a mentor even. I really appreciate everything I've been learning from you. For me, one thing that my teachers always stress is that there is a khidmah in Islam. There's service in Islam. And, you hear these stories about there'll be students around a teacher, and then one of the students is the one that goes around and serves the tea to all everyone else, or he goes out and he arranges the shoes, or he's cooking or cleaning the dishes. And in the end, it's that student who seemed to be away from the lessons and busy serving the group, he's the one that got elevated and really became the heir to that teacher. I think fortunately for me, since the day I became Muslim, that was always in my mind, probably because a big influence of my Islam was Brother Malcolm X, or Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. And we know Malcolm, what did he leave behind? This tremendous legacy. I'm not sure, but I doubt he was a master of the Quran, that he had memorized the whole Quran, that he was an expert at tajweed, although those are great things that, I strive for and everyone should strive for. But we remember him because of what he did for America, what he did for the Muslim community, what he did for the world. And so that's always been something that's driven me and pushed me in the work that I do in my life. I remember there was a time I worked for Intel, actually, so maybe I'm sure people don't know this. I used to be an engineer. I worked for Intel in California, and we had this big project and it was a big success. And it's the next day I get back to my cubicle at 8 a.m. and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't feel like I'm this isn't what I want to do in my life. I'm not saying people should quit their jobs. You got steady jobs, that's good, especially if you have kids. Those are responsibilities. But for me, it's always, since becoming Muslim, it's always been a question of, how can I better serve our brothers and our sisters in the community, and understanding that Islam's approach to faith is that is part of faith. It's not like spirituality is just what you do in your own room. It involves what we do with our bodies, with our hands, with our feet, as that famous hadith of wilaya, of sainthood or friendship, that eventually if we keep doing these things, the personal ibadah and the social ones, we become Allah becomes the the hand with which we strike with, and the feet with which we walk with. It encompasses every aspect of our being. So anyway, that was a long
No,
spiel,
perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect. So I want us to think about this concept now. You said, okay, so you say it's important to be socially, to get involved socially. But I guess the question is, let's say where do I start? Right? Yeah. I've got work, I got my family, I barely have time. So where do I start? How do I start getting myself involved and doing social good? You know, I guess that's the question most of you guys want to ask. But again, feel free to ask more questions, but just where do I start?
Yeah. That question almost reminds me of something is if you ever learn a new vocabulary word, then all of a sudden you start noticing that word everywhere around you. You're like, oh man, I didn't know people use that word so much, right? Because now you have it on top of your mind. It's the same thing with this type of good work. You might be asking like, oh, where can I volunteer? Well, make the intention and be in a mindset. And I think we covered mindset in the first webinar, but be in that mindset that I want to do social good. I want to volunteer, I want to find opportunities to get involved. And all of a sudden you're going to notice that there's so many opportunities to get involved around you. And one thing is a lot of times people think like, I want to be, I'm going to start a program to feed the homeless. Probably there's a program in your city, many programs to feed the homeless, right? Like we don't all need to be like leaders. Sometimes we need to be followers. And the best leaders, in fact, at one point were great followers in their own right. And so that's the first thing I think is be in that mindset and look for opportunities, and then be aware of what you have to offer. So a lot of times, people talk about they have time, but they don't have money, or they have money, they don't have time. And there's a story I like to share with one of my teammates in LaunchGood. Her name is Khalida. Probably one of the most sincere people you can meet, like just awesome Muslim, mashallah, from Colorado. And a couple of years ago, she was, I think, in between jobs and a little bit struggling. And so she wanted to give charity. There's a charity called Zamzam Water that's a wonderful charity out of Chicago originally. And she wanted to donate to them, but she didn't have money. And so actually she that's how we first got to meet her. She came to LaunchGood, and she ended up raising money from her friends and family to support that charity. And then the next year, she actually had a job with us. So she did so good that she was working for us. And so now she was in a position to give. So she wasn't in a position then to give. Now she was, although she was busy working for us. So, we have things like the Ramadan Challenge you can sign up for. And, I hate doing these plugs, but I have to make sure that to push a business. But, it's like, okay, now I can just set, hey, 30 days I'm going to be donating. And so at different stages of your life, you're going to have different things that you can give. And it's important to be really honest about what you're able to do. But also, as a Westerner, I think we have to keep ourselves in check. Because as a Westerner, sometimes we're like so caught up in self-care, like it's too much. So I frankly, I'm a busy guy. Like LaunchGood in Ramadan is like Christmas for Macy's. Like it's a very, very busy time for us. And at our local masjid, we have I have a small masjid that we're trying to like get off the ground in Dearborn. They asked me to take over the little talks in the Taraweeh prayer. And I was like, no, I'm so busy. But, I thought about it. I'm like, those talks, a lot of times are given in Arabic, and the majority of the congregation doesn't understand what's being said. Sometimes they're really long. They're convoluted. It's like, what is the imam even talking about right now? And so people don't find benefit in it. And I know that if I put a little time into it, I could probably prepare a better job and actually do this. And I just made it a priority, and so we never have time to do everything we want, but we always have time to do what we prioritize. So I guess, to recap what I'm trying to say, the first part is make the intention, really commit yourself, like I want to find opportunities to give back. And then the second is prioritize that. You will have to prioritize it. If people are here, they're busy people, but you're going to have to make a priority.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So the concept, the idea of setting that first intention that you want to do social good, it's not, and to get over that. Remember, we spoke in the first webinar about overcoming the scarcity mindset. Like, oh my God, if I give my time, if I volunteer, I won't have time. Or if I volunteer, I won't feel comfortable. I'll take away family time. I mean, let's be real, right? You said you have your full-time entrepreneur, you have a startup that's you said it's the busiest time of the year for you, especially Ramadan. You also have family, right? And I know you have young kids, and of course there's family commitments, and I'm sure your family also would like to see more of you as well. So how do you balance that? Because don't you say, someone will say, well, my social good is focusing on my family, and inshallah when my kids grow older, I'll probably do much more sort of outdoor, social volunteering. Right now, it's just my job, work, home, masjid, and that's it. I'm not going to go beyond that. So how do you perhaps tackle some of that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It has two ways. One is, I believe that part of raising your kids is letting them see you do the work, right? So that they understand that this is how they should themselves be in life. Like, as parents, we're doing our best to prepare our kids to surpass us. Like, I hope my daughter and my son are better Muslims than me, better business people than me, better human beings than I am. And so I'm trying to train them to get to a certain point, and then hopefully they can go beyond. But the second point, and I've learned this maybe the hard way, is communication. Back in your bachelor days, you just do everything on your own, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're a bachelor. Like, everything is on your own. Everything's in your mind, and you're just planning it out. And like, that doesn't really work when you're in a relationship, when you have commitments. And so I've been, really working to make sure that I communicate well to my wife. So it's like, I know that like this webinar, for example, was going a little late. I think if I do it in the house, there might be little kids climbing all over me like monkeys. It might be a little distracting. And so I talked to my wife about it and got permission to stay late in the office so that we can have this webinar and do it well. And that's really important. It's a give and take, of course. It's like, okay, I want to go out to iftar with my friends one night. Well, then I should also offer her the opportunity. Like, do you want to go out to iftar with any of your friends?
Okay, so speak communication, make that clear, set the intention. So how do you choose the project? Like you said, there's so much stuff you could do. How do you choose? Do you focus on one thing? Do you put your eggs in different baskets? How do you one is getting started, the other one is to focus, right? So that you feel like you want to make an impact, right? So that hopefully over a lifetime, you say, well, that person made an impact in this area versus they got involved in everything. So how do you choose?
Yeah, so I'm actually really interested in your answer. I think you probably have a better answer than I do.
Think about it while you talk.
Yeah, you think about it. For me, it's tawakkul. So there's one of my favorite verses in Quran. What is it? وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Whoever has taqwa of Allah, He will provide for him where he doesn't expect it, or He'll make a way out of difficulty for him and provide for him where he doesn't expect it. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever puts their trust in God, he'll find that God or Allah is sufficient for them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ الْأَمْرِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. That God is constantly bringing about His affair, and He's made an apportioned time for everything. And so I'm really a big believer that it sounds simplistic, but if you really have the right intention, you'll find things start to fall into place. There's this podcast I love called How I Built This with Guy Raz, and talking to entrepreneurs, he always ends asking them, was it your hard work or luck that got you here? And the most common answer, it was luck, but as opportunities seized. And we hear that, like, make your own luck or whatever it is. And for us as Muslims, I think the better word than luck would probably be barakah, right? Like blessing, like, so seize the blessings when Allah presents them before you. So anyway, what's your answer?
Getting yourself out there. I think the way I've been thinking about this, and this is something I've personally been thinking about. One initially was, okay, when I first started getting to doing social work, Productive Muslim was my social work kind of thing, because I had a full-time job, and Productive Muslim was my social impact work. But I think for me, when it switched, when Productive Muslim became my full-time thing, now the question is, well, what is your social work now? Because now this is becoming a full-time sort of, professional training company. Like, well, what's my social work? And it's been a journey, because part of me, I've set criteria of what my social work should look like. And I've also set criteria of idea what I need to getting myself involved in. But every now and then I get a slap in the face, because I hear stories of people who basically just started, got involved in something. Whether they said every Saturday they show up and they give away peanut butter sandwiches to the homeless, and they've done it for like 30 years. Or someone else will say, they just, they kept on, I had a relative who, passed away recently, where two beggars would come to the house every Thursday, and the family's like, why are you giving money to these beggars? Like, well, they're here, we'll give them money. And when the person passed away, the beggars were so moved, and they cried so much, they made more dua than the whole family put together. So you just don't know what impact you're making beyond just yourself. And I think it's that, like I said, it's keeping it top of mind, like what social impact. It could be as small as you're driving up a Starbucks. Well, I'm sorry, if we're all fasting right now. Mentioning Starbucks, not a good idea. You're driving a Starbucks and saying, well, know how people what pay for the guy behind you and all that, but what about the barista who serves you, something like that, where you're going above and beyond itself. I love that hadith that says that a believer is like a bee, right? When it lands on a flower, it lands on it takes what it needs to take, but when it never leaves, it leaves the pollen, it leaves good behind. Wherever Allah plants, you are fruitful. So whether you are traveling, whether you're at home, whether you are think of ways to just leave those leave those marks that person passed by here. At the same time, though, and I think it's where you come in, and I want to hear your stories, is yes, you can have all this little mini social goods everywhere, but you've seen projects of people who come up with ideas, things which are dreams for them, and they were able to make it a reality. People who've launched it through LaunchGood, they crowdfunded LaunchGood. I know you can share stories of people, almost unlikely campaign. People are like, oh my God, I can't believe that, I didn't know where this was going, but wow, they relaunched amazing projects, which is making social impact. And this is about having that one project that you say, this is my project, this is the thing I want to dedicate my life to and make it happen. I don't know if you have stories like that, basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's an incredible sister out of Chicago. Her name is Zainab Abdullah, or Z Abdullah. I'll type that here. And she, kind of traditional growing up in America, like Palestinian American in Chicago, there's a big community there, hijabi. I probably went to Islamic school, went to college, things like that. But at some point, or I think when she was around 19, I think she was in an accident, and then after that her hearing started to go, or maybe it was genetic and her hearing started to go, but at some point, like around 19, 20 years old, she began to lose her hearing. And one, her parents were terrified. You don't want any harm to come to your kids. And then two, her parents are thinking like, now no one's going to want to marry her, or like, what's she going to do? But actually, she's used that to do so much good. So she has helped start a charity called Deaf Soul Planet. And they work with kids, especially refugee children who have hearing problems and deaf problems. And, this was just her and a couple of people like her that began doing this, because it was like they could very much sympathize to their situation. And that's where I go back to what I said earlier, having trust in God, that He will put opportunities before you, and it's a matter of seizing those opportunities. So it wouldn't really make sense for me, who doesn't have any hearing problems, to try to start a charity like that. But for her, it's really perfect. And they just started this little organization. Then last year they actually did a campaign on LaunchGood, and their goal was to raise I think $30,000 or $50,000 to work in Lebanon. So that is to work with the Syrian refugee children in Lebanon. And their campaign was so inspiring that it kind of caught the hearts and minds of the folks in a Ramadan challenge. And I know a lot of you guys have joined the Ramadan challenge, so thank you for that. And it ended up raising like $80,000 or $90,000, and alhamdulillah, they've been able to like grow that organization much more professionally now. But you know, a lot of times that fundraising, maybe it gets a lot of attention. It's important to keep in mind it's just one step, right? Like money is only a means to facilitate the work, and you have to make sure that you're also ready and it's the right time to do that. But yeah, Zainab Abdullah, she's super cool. She's also does kickboxing, I think, or self-defense martial arts, and she trains women on like self-defense in Chicago. So that's really cool too. Very amazing woman on many levels, and so we're super grateful to have supported her.
Awesome, mashallah, mashallah. That's a great example. I love the example where basically the social project came from like it's called scratch your own itch, right? So she felt she knew she had, you know, she faced a challenge, and she channeled that challenge towards a social cause. And it's almost like sometimes try to find something that you relate to. Like, I know there's so much social good out there, and you can get involved with so many things, and it's not like, oh, one is better than the other. But for some people, education is really like, you know, education is what their heart is at. So for some people, civil rights movement is more important to them. For some people, it's more about homelessness, and it's because they've maybe felt homelessness when they were young. So choose something, I guess, with that you can really relate to. You can really see like, okay, I can feel myself like dedicate my life to, because it's personal. It's not just I'm doing because I have to do it, or because because everyone else told me I should be getting involved in this. It's because I really want to do it. I really feel like I'm part of it. This is a caveat. What if you throw in the other end of the spectrums? What if have you seen people start social projects and not go well, and maybe dissect what went wrong there? Maybe if you've seen examples like that before in your platform. And this is kind of like a curveball, but it's more like just an idea of maybe a word of caution of what we need to be aware of if we want to become socially active and go beyond ourselves.
Yeah, I'm sure I could think of an example. A specific one doesn't come to mind, but like in general, I see this a lot, that people, they start something and then they'll, like, for example, actually, it's kind of hard to talk about. I think of an example. I thought of an example, but if I talk about it, it's almost like
obvious what it is.
No, it's disparaging to the person almost, right? So I don't want to be too specific, but they'll be upset. They'll be like, how come no one's supporting me? And it's like, brother, like, I don't know, like, clearly something's off here, right? So maybe you need to check your intentions. Maybe you need to not do this effort, but see if you can support someone else's effort. I get very wary, when people really try to make like a big publicity out of their charity or their good deeds or their good work. Like, that's not what it's about. And that's a danger in the age we live in with social media, that we want to like put everything on Instagram, make everyone think we have this awesome life. Like, I'm even helping one of my friends now that, like, I thought he was crushing it, like crushing life. Like, he's living in Indonesia and working remotely and like yoga, this, that, like, oh wow, like he looks like he's doing great. And then it's like, he needs to borrow money. Like, he's really struggling. He's trying to get a job. He wants to come back to the United States. Like, he wants to come back to Detroit. And it's like, what? Like, I thought you were living a great life. Yeah, on Instagram, but not in reality. Anyway, that was a total tangent. But the question was about failed social projects. And that's why I think really it's important to be a good follower before you get leader. Like, there's some question about why I started LaunchGood or something like that. It wasn't like I started LaunchGood when I was 18. When I became Muslim when I was 16, almost 17, the following year I was at university, and I jumped into MSA, and it was like, I can do whatever you need to me. Just tell me what you need me to do. I had no desire to be in a leadership role. I wanted to be in a service role. So it was things like posting flyers at 6 a.m. around campus, right? Or cleaning up the iftar or things like that. And then the next year they're like, hey, can you be our treasurer? Which is probably worse than having to post flyers at 6 a.m.
More responsibility.
I hate being treasurer, but if that's what they needed. And then the next year they were like, well, this newsletter we've had has been dead for 3 years. Can you do something with that newsletter, and then we turned it into like this, awesome publication on campus. And then, the next year they made me president. And so, alhamdulillah, there were kind of steps there. They weren't necessarily like I myself really wanted to be in that position, but it occurred naturally until there's a point where you do feel like I would be the best person. Like, you don't become a president MSA by force. Like, you do have to make a decision. Like, yes, I'd like to be the MSA president. I'd like to be on the ballot. And for me, it was, I think, a humble honesty, right? Like, you look at Yusuf alayhi salam, when he gets out of prison, he asked the ruler, like, put me as the, how do we translate that in modern day English? Minister of Finance.
Treasury, head of Treasury.
Head of Treasury, Minister of Finance, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm very capable at that. And so it wasn't he was bragging, he wasn't being arrogant, but he knew what he could do, and he knew that he could use that for good. And so likewise, I think you do have to be honest, and there might be a time to be a leader, but it starts with being a good follower.
Awesome. That's a great example, and that's a great word of advice there about. And it's funny when you mentioned the idea of those opportunities coming up. In the coaching world, they tell us, follow the breadcrumbs. In the sense that sometimes you see the breadcrumb coming up, like, just follow the breadcrumbs. Don't resist. Don't try to run away from the breadcrumbs. I mean,
where's that from?
It's from the executive coaching world. Whenever you coach the client, sometimes they say, well, when you work with a client and an opportunity comes up, you'll hear that the client will say, I want to run away. Like, no, I shouldn't be doing this. You can hear it, they're excited about it, but because of the fear of success more than fear of failure, they'll say, I don't want to do that. But they say, follow the breadcrumbs, meaning like, well, just try it. Put your foot in, see what happens. And normally when they follow the breadcrumbs, a lot more opportunities open up than if they kind of stuck to their own guns, stuck to where they were. So that concept, the idea, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens opportunities for you. Instead of saying no, thank you, and turning away, say, well, what can I do here? And from a social good perspective, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a person. I mean, this is a story I once asked my teacher about this. Like, well, especially I used to live in the Muslim world, and sometimes you get bombarded with people asking for money, right? And there come a point you're like, man, like, I don't know, like, where do they spend this money and who they are, and maybe they're part of a gang, stickers and all that stuff. And he told me a story. He said, listen, I'll tell you a story, and then you decide how you're going to act. He said, there was once a man who prayed sincerely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, oh Allah, please, 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 tonight I want to give my sadaqah to someone who really deserves it. So he went out at night in secret, and he saw a man, and then, he thought he was poor. He gave the money to that person. He came back home, and, came back home. The next morning, it turned out that man was a thief, right? Who was caught and put in jail. And he was like, Allah, and I asked you to help me give money to someone who deserves it, and I was giving money to a thief, basically. So the second day, second night, he asked, oh Allah, please, please help me. I want to give my money to someone who really deserves it. And he went out in the streets, and he found a lady, thought she was poor. He gave her money. Next day, found she was a prostitute. And it's like, like, what is this? I'm supporting a thief. I'm supporting a prostitute. What's going on here? And he's like, ya Allah, please help me find someone who deserves this. And then the third night, he goes out and it's another man, and he gives money to that person. And it turns out that person, the next day, was actually a very wealthy man who didn't even need the money, but somehow took the money from him. So it's like, he was getting depressed.
Wrong.
He's like, what is it wrong with me? My intentions, so on and so forth. But then, subhanAllah, a few days, a man approached him and said, are you the person who gave money to a thief? He's like, yeah, that's me. He's like, well, I am that thief. And when you gave me that money, I realized that I was out in the streets trying to steal people's money. You were out in the streets trying to give money. And I made tawbah, and now I'm earning an honest living. So thank you for that charity. So it completely changed that man's life. And then, we walked a little bit further. So the lady came up to him, like, you the man who gave money to the prostitutes? Like, yes. Like, well, I was that prostitute. I used to basically go out, I'd make money because I didn't have any other means of making money. But when you gave me that charity, I started a small business in my home, and I stopped doing what I was doing. And thank you. Your charity really, really helped me basically transform my life. And then he, saw the rich man, and the rich man said, are you the guy who gave money to the rich man? He's like, yeah, that's me. He's like, well, I'm a rich man, and I never give charity. I always thought, what's the point of giving charity? But here you are, someone who has less than I do, went out and gave charity in the middle of the night, like from now on, I'm going to start giving charity. So it's sometimes it's having this impact. Yes, maybe you don't know. Yes, maybe the person's ill intentions. Maybe they'll use your money badly, but you never know. You never. If you have a sincere intention, if you set your intention to Allah, want to make impact. Remember that the sadaqah, as Aisha said, falls in Allah's hand before it falls in the poor person's hand. So when you say that I'm actually giving charity to somebody and I'm supporting somebody, not myself. No, it's not about the person, not about you. It's about you doing active worship. You never know where the barakah, the blessing of that charity can go, and sometimes it just changes people's lives and perceptions, basically. Wallahu alam.
That's beautiful.
So I think now it's the time where we get a little more practical, because alhamdulillah, so we spoke about getting, hopefully everyone now started to churn their minds. Okay, I need to go beyond myself. I don't want to just be selfish. I want to, whether it's doing random acts of kindness here and there, whether it's focusing on one social good. We spoke about what, those intentions. We spoke about things to be aware of, and we spoke about making sure that, it's about being ready for it, and sometimes being a follower can be as good as being a leader. You have to always lead a project, and also be a good follower, so to speak. So let's be practical, and I want us to be practical in two ways. One, again, and please, if people who are in this chat want to ask further questions, please go ahead. But the two ways I'm thinking about is, one is can people kind of like almost automate their social good. Because let's be honest, we don't think about our social good every often, right? We don't wake up in the morning, let me do something for the world today, right? We always use our to-do list, our task list, our families. So how do you automate your social good? And I'm going to do a plug in here for LaunchGood, because I think one of the smartest ways to automate your social good is through the LaunchGood Ramadan 30-day giving campaign, because that's smart, right? You don't think about it, it's done there. You just automate it. If you guys should check out the LaunchGood platform and just sign up for the challenge, because it just shows that you can do good without you actually actively thinking about it. And we got a beautiful question the other day. I don't know if you had a chance to ask Yusuf about it. Someone said, like, do I need to set my intention for that for 30 days, or do I just, because I do this charity without even realizing it? And what was the answer that you thought of? I think we had a bit of chat there.
So yeah, the question was, do you still get the reward of the charity if you just automate and you're not like making that intention daily, or do you need to make the intention even though it's automated? And it reminded me of, this is a fiqh discussion with regards to fasting in Ramadan. So some scholars say, does one intention at the beginning of the month suffice for the whole month, or every night do you need to make an intention? To be safe, a lot of scholars, they recommend you do one for the whole month at the beginning, and then every night you try to make it as well. And so I have automated as a backup. There was a couple automation features new. 2 years ago, we didn't have the automated feature. You always had to go and manually donate. And I was traveling on the last day of Ramadan to Lebanon, where my wife's family's from, and I couldn't get internet, and I couldn't finish, and there was no makeup function. And so I ended the month with like 29 out of 30 days filled, and my whole team just like made fun of me for a year. So now you know why we added automation. So I have automation to make sure that doesn't happen again. I could be in itikaf, or I could be sick or whatever. I know that there'll be donation every day for me. But I also go in actually and try to find like 2 or 3 campaigns to support on top of that every day. But yeah, automate. How do we automate our good deeds? I think that intention question is a good one, because there's a balance here that we want. We don't want to become absent-minded, like we're doing things and we don't know why we're doing them, but we definitely do want to build good habits. So I know one that you promote a lot, I believe, is Salatul Duha, right? The early, or the morning prayer, we could call it. And for me, like I can't remember exactly when I got in the habit of doing it, but there was at some point in my life, it was like, okay, I'd always do that before I headed out to work. And I found that those days that I made duha were especially blessed in my time. And now that I think about it, I actually missed duha today. And I was like, man, this day's gone by so fast. And so there you go. Like I didn't have the barakah from the day because I forgot Salatul Duha. But yeah, I think automating things so that's almost like second nature, and good deeds. And like one right now with Ramadan, if you're driving, is like pop a good CD in your CD player, for example, and yeah, like a CD, old-fashioned CD player, because if you leave that on when you leave the car, then when you start the car, it automatically starts playing. So if it's a CD of Quran, for example, or dua or whatever it might be, it's like the first thing that's going to start playing when you get in your car is that Quran. Yeah, but I'm going to turn to the audience because there's a friend of mine from Australia here, and I want to see what ideas he has to automate your good. How do we do that?
Okay, so I mean, just think about social goods. Again, it's not about automating habits which are personal. It's honestly about social good. So, for example, if you have a habit of, let's say, for those of us who live in a country that always give you coins back as change, and you having these coins, annoying coins sitting in your pockets, you just have the habit, like, okay, come back home and you just put them inside a jar, and this is your sadaqah jar, and just keep on empty whatever coins you have, just put in your jars. And again, this is great because the whole family sees you doing it, they join in, and then that becomes you're automating a social good. And then every Friday you take that sadaqah to the Friday mosque and give it in Friday, or charity of your choice, for example. The idea of saying, for example, when you think of automation, think about a trigger, a routine, and a reward, right? Think about like, what would be the trigger? For example, let's say every time I go to a restaurant, I will put in the routine you'll do, the social good you'll do. Could be I will pay the person behind me. I will tip X amount for the waiter. I will make sure that if I have extra food, I will give it somebody I know that who needs food. So it's almost like you think of the trigger, think of the routine, and think of the reward. So maybe this would be a great framework for you just to all think about is let's all build a social good. You want a social routine for ourselves, a social good, a trigger. So think about what would be the trigger, what would be the routine, what would be the reward, right? So think about three things. For example, we had was it a Launch Good campaign as well, where this lady tried to she basically, people was drinking a lot of bottled water for Tarawih, and she said, well, let's replace all bottled waters with like normal,
yeah.
So that was
proper water bottles.
Proper water bottles, right? So I mean, for them, she saw a habit, right? She saw a habit that was people drinking water. It's not going to stop. But she thought about how to change the routine. Like, instead of you drinking that water from the plastic water bottle, what if you use a reusable water bottle? So she changed the routine and she made social good. So thinking from that perspective, either seeing a trigger, think a routine, think a reward. So okay. So Peter Gould, our friend from Australia, mentioned that if you get an email, every time he gets an email for this month, make dua for that person. So Peter, I'm going to put your email in the chat so everyone emails Peter today. and Peter, you'll be up all night making dua for every single person who emails you today, inshallah. So that's a great one. So that's a trigger. Chris just put his email. That's a trigger. I get an email, I got boom, routine. Someone makes dua for me. And I'll make dua for that person, and then reward is, inshallah, the angels say Ameen to you. So that's a great example. So how else? So let's think about it. How else would you guys want to put in, build social habits for yourself, trigger, routine, reward, trigger, routine, reward. What will be the trigger for yourself? What will be the routine? What will be the reward?
I like this coming from the audience.
Yeah, pretty much. Just being graceful and saying it's awesome. Okay, so volunteer. So Khadija say volunteering in the kids in madrasa. So here's a good one, Khadija. Like, if you've been doing something already, think of also how to level that up, how to take it to a whole new level. Sometimes, again, we sometimes get comfortable with our volunteering or our charity or our social good. It's more like, how can I take it to the next level? How can I just add it, maybe change the routine a little bit, change the trigger a little bit so that it's beyond what I normally do, so that you really make this Ramadan memorable. I remember a couple of Ramadans ago, we sent an email to Protect Muslim mailing list saying, hey, do one good deed this month that you will never forget for the rest of the year. Like something that goes above and beyond what you normally do. And I had a couple of guys email me saying that they actually normally they would give money to this orphanage that would be next to them, but that Ramadan they decided to actually cook an entire iftar meal for the entire orphanage. It goes, the amount of work that went into that and the amount of and the memories that came out of that will never be forgotten. So sometimes make make it memorable, make it something that stands out. And again, it doesn't have to be big. It could be way, it could be something that's much more like, something that's consistent, but that has been done every single day, inshallah. Okay. Okay, so Hina's mentioning the story that sometimes, that happened. Again, it's about you. So, sometimes also, I don't know, Chris, you maybe agree with me or not. Are we sometimes socially lazy in the sense that we don't want to go and ask the person who, let's say the homeless person who asks for money, hey, how's life? Where are you from? What do you do? We just want to go online, give charities, and just the personal touch is not there, and sometimes it's not want to get uncomfortable, I guess. So I don't know if you've come across that, or just that idea of bridging that gap between, yes, like you said, the automation is great, and alhamdulillah, you get rewarded for it, but also add a human touch to some of our social good deeds.
Yeah, it's being in Detroit, we have a lot of homeless people in our community, actually. So our office for Launch Good, one of them is here in Detroit, and there's a masjid across the street. And then I live in Dearborn, and there's a different masjid across the street. So, and they're very different masajid, because this is in the city. It tends to be like a younger population, a lot of homeless people, poorer people. And like, I remember there's this one guy, he's always, looking for help and this and that. And I was like, all right, brother, I'm going to make up his name, brother William, right? It's like, all right, brother William, like, we got to get you out of this and get you in a better place, And so I started trying to actually get him an apartment, and it was super hard. Would have been way easier to just give him money. And then we got him an apartment, and he lost the apartment. I mean, so then we got him another apartment, and then he screwed up again and lost the apartment again, right? And sometimes you feel like you're banging your head against the wall, but also it feels like this is real charity. Like this work we're doing, and you do it for yourself ultimately. Allah says, وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِأَنفُسِكُمْ. Whatever good you do, ultimately you're just doing it for yourself. It's hard, so I don't give money out frequently to homeless people. If I can, I prefer giving them food or buying them food. And sometimes it's a tell, like they don't want the food. They're like, I want the money, right? And they're probably feeding an addiction. But even addicts need to eat. So sometimes they actually do want the food. Sometimes they do need that food. And
that human touch is to learn about the stories, is to learn about them, learn what they name it. Like, find out their name, find out what they do, find out what they used to do, what happened. And like I said, sometimes it's just having those stories and sitting and talking to people can be much more powerful. Like, I remember one of the most powerful things I've heard is they say that a listening ear can be charity. Like, you just sit and listen to that person, let that person tell you what they've gone through. You don't have to give them a single dime, right? Just listening can be so powerful, so uplifting, so beneficial to the person by itself. And I think, and it's hard. Again, it's hard. It's not something that we do often, not that we do every day. But I guess the next time, sometimes we walk fast, we run in the airports, in the travel, in the train, the trams, in the bus, in the city. You say, well, can I just pause here for a second? I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's weird. Maybe they'll think maybe this might not be quote unquote safe and all that stuff. But let me just pass through this, and as a learning opportunity for me, and as a human touch, inshallah, from this experience. I think that's when it goes beyond yourself. Okay, so Colleen wants to come and visit you, I guess, in Launch Good offices. All right. Mariam is a great example. She said, we have a garden, and we'll give some of the veggies to the masajid, inshallah ta'ala. All animals get the food, so perfect. Yes, that's a great example of a hobby that feeds has social good. That's why planting trees is actually one of the best things you could do in terms of social good. Okay. So all right. So we wanted to come almost to a close. I just want to make sure that we cover all the topics we wanted to talk about. So we spoke about getting to the mindset of social good. We spoke about having those random acts of make it top of your mind, right? Bumblebee, right? Make impact, not just for myself and I go beyond myself. Some of the stuff can be automated, like through the Launch Good Ramadan 30-day challenge. Some of the stuff can be done on a human touch basis, where you get to know a single family or know a single person, or you sponsor, you focus on a particular human being and you have that human connection. And some of that can be a social project, like that Deaf Muslim project, right? You sort of rally behind a cause and you go out there and you sort of maybe raise money on launchgood.com, or you go out there and you support a project. So we gave you some ideas. So what I want to hear now from the audience is taking, I don't just this be an entertaining conversation for you guys. What social cause, what social good are you committing to? Whether it's something small or a project or a human connection or a combination of all three, what are you going to commit to from this webinar? So you feel like, yeah, I can't be in my comfort zone. I cannot just be myself and I not really go. So what are you going to commit to for this month that will go above and beyond what you normally do in Ramadan from a social perspective? So I'd love to hear that. And I can see, I think Peter Gould's email is already full. It's probably busy with these emails right now. Let's hear from the chat. Okay, Khadija is a great example about giving from what you love the most. That could be a good start. Imagine going through your clothes and like, ooh, I love those clothes, but I'm gonna give. You know how nobody give not the worst, but kind of like things that are not the best. Oh, it doesn't fit us. What if your best clothes you barely wore and you're like, oh my God, I love this clothes. I'm gonna give it away this charity. Khadija is a great example. Okay. Hina's gonna go into restaurant donation. Okay, so she's gonna go in there and she's gonna either pay for somebody that's paying on someone else's bill, or go help the pay the waiter or something beyond themselves. Okay, Afiq is gonna actually go help physically, help the local groups of food for iftar. That's awesome. Again, it starts somewhere. And it's amazing. Once you start getting involved, it's like Chris said, the breadcrumbs will come up. Your opportunities will come up. You'll start getting much more involved than normally. Okay. Okay. All right. So Peter will get involved with something. Okay, great. Iftar feeding the masjid. That's awesome. Fatima, again, Fatima, think of going above and beyond just regular iftar feeding. Like, how you have the same iftar experience? How will you leave a mark? Like, oh my God, when Fatima's there, it's like the best iftar program happens because she's there. Like, be someone where when they leave, they notice. They're like, oh my God, Fatima's here. She does iftar feeding. The way she puts things together, that's incredible. I can't think of a better person than her to do this. And when she leaves, they're like all making dua. Oh my God, I hope she comes back. And she was amazing because the way she does iftar feeding. So it's not just about ticking a box. Like, okay, alhamdulillah, I've done iftar feeding. Oh, alhamdulillah, I've donated. It's saying, how can I go with ihsan, with excellence, inshallah? So that's a great one. Okay. Okay, awesome. So Ariba's going to think of supporting the orphan. Again, Ariba, if you know that orphan in person, that's even better. All know the hadith of the reward of wiping your hands over the orphan's head. That's beautiful. So if you know someone in person that you can work with, again, you don't have to do a whole social project, don't support an entire orphanage. Work with one person. Just work with that. Dedicate themselves to that, inshallah. Okay. All right, Tamana's going to start a sustainable business project. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Chris, any last words, any last thoughts? I know you have to rush off. It's getting close to iftar time in Detroit.
And this was very inspiring, actually. I hope I provided some benefit, but I'm actually really inspired by hearing from you guys. And like Peter, I definitely getting some ideas here. Allah help us. Allah help us be good people, inshallah.
Colleagues talking about foster care, which is huge now in the US. Again, Muslims, you get involved in foster care. So I hope, again, the purpose of the webinar really was just to get that thinking process started, right? It's not we didn't want to share information. Kristen, say something?
Yeah, one thing does come to mind now, because I think Khadija had a question here, should she, she just started her school or whatever, and like, should she do more? Should she stretch herself more? And it's, my gut reaction is no, definitely not. Like, if you just got started, you have to make it a strong, consistent habit that becomes a foundation that you build off of. But it reminds me of something like in this mosque here, I was actually really sad in some ways to move to Dearborn, because we used to live here in Detroit and we go to this mosque all the time. And it's not the fanciest mosque. Like, it doesn't have even full-time staff or anything like that. But it's got a really dedicated core of sincere young people that like every Sunday they go feed people. Every day, every night in Ramadan, we have iftar, and somehow we collect $40,000 every year, and we pay for iftar for every single night for whoever walks in, a homeless person, Muslim, non-Muslim, it doesn't matter. And it could be really difficult to do that if you were doing it by yourself. But because you're in a group of like 24 people that all feel really good and they have good spirits and they treat each other well. Like I just prayed Asr there before I came to this webinar, and spontaneously, like a few of them grabbed the Quran and they're like, hey, let's all read Quran for like 15 minutes as a group, you know? And I was like, this actually is kind of rare. Like you don't see that so much in Masajid, but they're doing it as a group. And so all this social good we're doing, one thing we didn't talk about, but it's really important, is you can't do it alone. Like you need a group of people, of friends that push you and encourage you to do this.
SubhanAllah, that's a beautiful, beautiful and powerful reminder. And that's something that's very, very, very important. And it's amazing that every time social good was encouraged by Rasulullah, it's encouraged in the group format, like afshu salam, at'imut ta'am. Like it wasn't like you just go, you feed the person. No, it's like as a community, as a group, serve others. And I think that's really pretty powerful. Jazakallah khair for sharing that. Alhamdulillah, I think personally, this is a reminder for me as well. I need to sort of really go. I've been more of a hermit for past few months actually, because I came back from travel and I'm like all over the place. So I'm like, I need also to think about my social impact beyond, practical Muslim, beyond like, I'm always local. I think it's local social impact that's above and beyond what you normally do. That's what we basically be, that we do khidmah, have the khidmah and have that service and have that mindset inshallah always. So jazakumullah khair for that and for everyone else. There are some couple of technical questions about launch good from Ariba and from Colleen. I don't know if Chris want to respond in the chat.
Oh yeah.
In the meantime, I'm going to play a short video, which is basically Launch Good's promotion for the Launch Good campaign. If you've not heard of the Launch Good challenge, I'm going to play this video. I'm going to show you and tell you a little bit more about it before we close, inshallah ta'ala. So here's the video, and you can chat in the chat, Chris, with the guys, inshallah.
You care. There are so many great projects out there, but your time is limited, your resources are limited, and the need is so great. This Ramadan, you can actually help with just a little time and money. You can join thousands across the world to empower incredible Muslims doing inspiring work. Every day of Ramadan, don't miss the opportunity. Join Launch Good's Ramadan Challenge with your friends and family. Bismillah.
Good, relax. There we go. All right. Just quick clock back. Okay, so yes, if you've not part of Ramadan Challenge, Chris, is it too late to join Ramadan Challenge? I know it's past the first couple of days. Is it like I missed out?
Yeah, no, it's not too late. Actually, today we had the most people join in history. Wow. I think it was either today or yesterday, about 3,000 people joined just today. So definitely there's a lot of time to join. Actually, could I share my screen? Could I show people what it looks like?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Let's see.
If you haven't joined, or you see the back end.
Okay, is it on the Ramadan Challenge screen?
Yes. Oh, wow.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's really fun. You have these little leaves, and so you can go back and see what you've done. If you missed a day, it's really easy. You just go back and support something, and we can't go forward. Right?
I'm not available yet.
Yeah, but one neat thing is that you can share. Like you have a unique link. Like mine ends in 18. You can see here, and if you use that and you invite people, you can actually see which of your friends joined. So I have a lot of friends, thankfully, that have joined. And then if you get points for every friend that joins, and those points go towards giving you a chance to win an Umrah. So we're going to give away 3 Umrahs this year, inshallah. So definitely nice. A lot of reasons to join, a lot of reasons to invite people. And some big names have invited a lot of people, mashallah. But to me, this is the perfect example of when Muslims work together, like we can accomplish so much, right? That like we only have like the average person's only giving me like $5 or something, but when you have 15,000 plus people doing it, you're giving away almost $100,000 every day. Or not giving it, but really investing into our community, into things like feeding families in need, or helping victims of terrible terrorist attack, to really inspiring campaigns like there's one that I could go on and on, but like prison and building schools.
Your favorite campaigns this year, the ones you're most excited about.
Oh my God,
it's a loaded question.
It's really loaded. We could look at what's trending, and I'll point. There's one that I think is so cute, and I think it's out of Australia.
Oh, there you go. So, Hina, if you're in Australia, you need to support this.
I'm not sure it's not sure, but let's check. It's called Jolly Animals. I mean, I love the name, Jolly Animals. Oh yeah, it's Queensland, Australia. So they're creating books based off of animals, stories of animals in Quran. Like you talked about the bee. There's a cow, the different type of animals, and they have plush toys with it. So I think that's super cool. I love these type of projects because
that looks cute.
Like we talked about at the very beginning of this, like Islam is not. We can't think of Islam as a faith in the way that Western faith is. That is supposed to be like contained in your home, and it's not social, it's not public. Islam is a very social religion, and it's a way of life. And building, to me, having our own kids' books, and I know like Peter is doing amazing work with Zalige, and in this respect, building products that we can use and dolls that our kids can play with. That is just as important as building the schools that we're doing.
SubhanAllah. I was talking the other day with my wife because I was reading some storybooks with my son. And I was like, SubhanAllah, all these books are reading, like these are people who've thought about an idea and they've made the project reality, and now they're creating a culture. Like our kids are growing up with these books. Some of them have been launched good, Islamic books which are really inspiring, really well produced, really professional, have really good messages inside of them. You're like, wow, like the fact that when people step up and say, I want to go beyond myself, it's that social impact they're making. It's that, it's amazing. Like we are creating a new reality for Ummah, which perhaps did not exist for our parents. So this is really exciting time to be Muslims, exciting time supporting also this work project, basically.
Yeah, my daughter definitely has more Islamic books than we can handle now, right? Like I think it was, and they're all new. I mean, that's a really cool thing. So, man, they're really like some of my favorite things to do is just go to LaunchGood and you hit the trending tab, and you just look at like what's popular right now. But like for example, this one, Empowering Women in Gambia, it's teaching women and providing women the resources to start their own farms in their backyard. So that whole idea of teaching people to fish instead of just feeding them fish. We have a masjid. It's going to be the first masjid in a very small town in Oaxaca. I can't even say it. Oaxaca, Mexico.
Wow.
And there's like one, like Pakistani restaurant there, and they built a little masjid in the back of it, and people are becoming Muslim, and now they're growing, and now they're getting ready to build a masjid, and that's like a really, something really special. And this one is in Indonesia, is providing wheelchairs for disabled people. So it's really global. I love that. Like, we should be very proud about the international flavors of the Muslim community. It's awesome, and something to be really proud of. And so much good work happening across the world. We should really be positive. Like I know there's we got Trump and Putin and all this stuff going on in the world, but there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic.
Alhamdulillah. And that's maybe the biggest impact of these every little bit helps. Every Ramadan challenge, every LaunchGood campaign, every social good, every small interaction, every orphanage you support, these all interacting overall, that's what's going to help make our Ummah successful. Sometimes we expect some big change to happen in the Ummah overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. It's about these small steps, these small contributions that make a difference, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, I'm so excited about this project. So this Ramadan. In fact, I think Chris, you just gave me my new pre-iftar habit, which is to check out the Launch Good trending page and see which project to look at and support that day. I think it'll be really fun.
I think one of the coolest things I've heard about a Ramadan challenge is there are some parents that sit down with their kids and they let the kids choose one project every day to donate to.
That's beautiful.
My daughter's still a little bit young. We'd probably end up with like 30 jolly
$30.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a good question. So can you do people give Ramadan challenge manually? If I don't want to, you guys choose on my behalf, can I go and choose which one to support?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
half the people are automated, and half the people are manual. Okay. And so, you know, and you could do both, of course, but yeah.
Okay. Someone did ask that question about supporting party manual, so you got that option. I think for me, like I said, I think the best thing is keep automating just in case so that you don't forget. And then if you want to go above and beyond, you can do manual as well. So that's perfect, inshallah. Awesome. So Jazakumullah khair. This has been wonderful. I really want to say thank you all for being part of this. Thank you, Chris, for your time. And it's really close to Iftar for you, Jazakallah khair, for giving us your time. And thank you, your family as well, for giving us, having you and taking your precious family time as well. And I hope you guys benefited, and hope all of us can really start thinking seriously about making that social impact above and beyond ourselves. Jazakumullah khair. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.